Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Just Two Brothers podcast, where we will be sharing our journey so far and some of the simple tactics we've learned that have helped us become great leaders. What's up, everybody? We've got a special series starting this week, and I'm excited to kick it off. We wrapped up last week with the final part of our delegation episode, which was our 21st episode. Thank you all out there listening. We appreciate you. If you don't already, make sure you follow us on social. We are at J2B Podcast on Twitter, at Just Two Brothers Podcast on Instagram or Facebook. We would love to hear what you think. On this series, we will be running a highlight reel of sorts. We've covered a lot of information, and it's always a good idea to recap what you've learned to help commit it to memory. Although it may be a short history, we do have a lot of really good information in past episodes. If you haven't already, make sure to look back and see if any pique your interest. Who knows, maybe something we've covered already is exactly what you're looking for. On to the episode. The first clip is from our 4th episode, the J2B Standard, where we talk about the origins of our standard and why it's critical to your success as a leader. The second clip is from our 3rd episode, titled Get Your Hands Dirty. We break down why you do not want to lead with a do as I say, not as I do attitude. We also dig deeper into how getting in and working hands-on with your team helps you earn respect and learn how your department works. The third and final clip is from our 2nd episode, I know, reverse order, titled Please and Thank You. We talk about making sure you actually mean it when you say it. We also cover how to use it in daily life and briefly touch on the golden rule and letting your emotions show through. We hope you enjoy this first part of our recap series. We will be continuing on next week with part 2. If you have a specific clip that spoke to you, let us know so we can include it. We talked a little bit last week about the process that I use when leading a new team or when leading a team in general. And so we're going to break that down a little bit this week, get into the 4-part process and why each step is important.
I'm curious, when did you come up with this process? Because this is something we're just now getting into. Like you mentioned it a couple months ago when we started talking about ideas and the idea of a podcast came up. You mentioned having a process. When did you feel like you developed this process, or when did it click like, hey, I have something here?
Those are 2 separate occasions. I kind of realized I have a sequence of things I do a couple years ago. I just realized one day that, wow, this is like I kind of go through this process with everything I do, with every new person that comes into my area, with every new area I have to go to, with every new team I have to go into. There's certain things I start to do, and then when I'm teaching somebody else, I start with those same things. And I just kind of realized it one day. I didn't realize I had something here until shortly after I left my last job in September, when I still talked to old coworkers, team members, whatever you want to call them. I would call them for advice. They would call me for advice. We'd have conversations. But then, somebody had come to me for advice, and driving home from meeting up with them, I was like, I enjoy teaching people these types of things. I know I have my process. Why don't I try to get it out there? Why don't I let people into this thing that I do? And so that's kind of when I realized, wow, I might actually have something here,
Okay.
because so many people have, and even after leaving, they've called to thank me for everything I taught them and helped them with over the years to get them their new promotion and whatever. So it kind of just registered that, wow, I actually do know what I'm doing. It was more an affirmation that, holy shit, I'm not just some punk kid
That's winging
anymore.
it.
Yeah, I'm actually good at what I do, and I want to share that because I do enjoy sharing it. That's my favorite part of all of it.
Right.
Is bringing people up with me, and that's it. I don't care if they get promotions, and I know what I like to do. If they want to keep going, good on them. So I love teaching people.
And that's the best part too, is seeing the people that you're teaching and working with keep improving and building on what they've learned and what you were able to teach them too.
Yeah, I literally just got a call 4 days ago, something like that, from one of my old team leads thanking me, or it was a text message thanking me for all the help I had given them in the training that I put them through to get them. They just got a supervisor role.
Oh yeah.
And they texted me to thank me for it. And that's, I haven't been at that place for, well, since September.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's like, to be, I guess, remembered that long after. That's an awesome feeling.
Oh yeah.
It feels so good when you get those messages.
Well, and even like I shared with you, what was it, 2 weeks ago, I went to a party with some Marine friends of mine, and one of them that worked with you at the same company. Hey, how's your brother doing? Talked to him for a little bit, and yeah, I really miss having him around. He was an awesome guy. So you obviously you made an impact. So
Yeah, and that is an amazing feeling, and I guess I kind of chase it.
Mhm.
So I like teaching people. It's very fulfilling. Very fulfilling.
Yeah, rewarding, fulfilling. Yep.
Yep. So with that, we'll get right into it. The 4-part process is pretty simple. It is respect, praise, empower, and challenge. And that is in a specific order. I believe one cannot be achieved until the previous one has been. And that leads right into respect, and that is the cornerstone of everything you do. Respect is critical. Without it, you've got nothing. Your team won't listen. Your team won't respond. You won't be responding to them. After all, we are supposed to be servant leaders. That's ultimately what we want to be. And if you don't respect your team, you're not going to be paying attention to their needs and get them what they need to be taken care of and continue doing the job you need them to be doing day in and day out.
Earning it, getting your hands dirty, and doing the job that you're essentially there to lead. So I guess just to get into it, yeah, what do you have any thoughts on that? Anything to share?
Something that is said, it can be frequently. Some people use it more than others, but I'm sure everybody has heard it. It's do as I say, not as I do. We want to do the opposite of that. we want to lead by example.
Exactly.
But I did find that quote kind of interesting, and I mean, I've used it. And when you have a team's respect, you can do certain things and give people certain looks of like, close one eye a minute while I go do this, and you can say, do as I say, not as I do, and you can get away with it. But if you use it without having your team's respect, it falls flat, and it doesn't mean anything. So, but I found that line interesting. So I dug into it a little bit. That first appeared in print in 1654 in a book titled Table Talk Preaching, and it was by John Selden. The line in the book was, "Preachers say, do as I say, not as I do. And that in and of itself was kind of interesting to me, that specifically talking about preachers, but just find it interesting that that line goes back that far. And who knows how much further than that. That's just when it was first printed.
You're right. No, that's something I've heard that said plenty of times. I've said it more times than not, but yeah, that's interesting. It's definitely not how you want to do things. You want to lead by example, like you were saying, but
Like I said, there are times where you can, once you have your team's respect and it's been established, you can do certain things and say that, and people will turn a blind eye, but you have to be selective. And even then, you don't want to overuse it.
you're right.
But beside the point, we want to talk about leading by example today.
To start things off, I guess we were talking a little bit before we started recording here. But with my background, I joined the Marine Corps. I learned a job. I learned to be good and efficient at that job. And then I got to move into leadership roles and learning how to train people as they were coming in, and then moving up in the ranks and everything that way. I did the same thing at my current position. I worked my way up, and I've done every role that essentially I would be put in charge of somebody doing. I've done every single role. So in your point of view and from your experience, do you think you need to know how to do a job in order to lead or manage others effectively doing that same work?
That is a interesting question, because eventually, I believe if you are a good leader, you almost have no choice but to learn the role. So I can say that yes, you can lead effectively without knowing the job, but if you're a good leader, you will just start to learn that role.
You learn it through basically osmosis then.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're a good leader, because you are paying attention to your team, you're getting in there with your team, you're asking them, how long is this going to take? Even there were plenty of times where I got thrown into a spot that I knew nothing about. When I first went to this company, I knew nothing about automotive, nothing about welding, nothing about roll mills, nothing about anything to do with this entire process. I could not have been as good of a leader had I not learned through the years about that process.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to start somewhere, and while I may not have been as effective as I was towards the end because I had knowledge, I was still effective. So to answer your question, yes, you can, but you will end up learning it anyways.
If you're a good leader, I think you will learn how to do the job. But
Yeah,
I think
anybody listening right now is going to. So
how many people have you seen put in positions that they didn't know how to do the job and they showed no effort in learning how to do
plenty.
that job?
It happens all the time. That's the majority of your supervisors, your leaders right now. They're just about power and title and position and money and promotions and whatever. It means nothing to them. They're just in it for the climb and to see where they can go so they can swing their dick around, and it means nothing. They're not in it for leading. They're not in it for the enjoyment of working with people.
I would agree. So now, with that being said, what is an effective way as a leader that doesn't know anything coming into a position or does not understand how to do that job? How have you as a leader learned how to do the job from the people that you were in the charge of?
There's all kinds of different ways to go about it. One One thing I like to do, and it goes for even after you know the process, sometimes it can be pretty effective, especially after you know the process, but is to just ask somebody, how long is that going to take you? And just follow up. So you start to get a baseline for timelines. And the majority of what you're doing throughout the day is scheduling, putting out fires. It's just chaos, constant chaos. So the more knowledge you have about the length of time certain things take, the instantly you're that much more effective at your job.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things I'll start to do is asking people, how long is that going to take you? And then make a note and make sure you follow back up. Because then that they start to see that you're paying attention to them, you're listening to them, you're checking up on them. Even the people that just want to go there and do their job, they still like to see you throughout the day. They still like to know that you are doing your job. Because the last thing any of us want is a boss who sits on their ass all day and does nothing.
Right.
That takes the morale down instantaneously.
Yeah.
And then when they see you doing nothing and nothing ever gets done, their lives suck. It just drives that wedge further and further and further. So this one thing accomplishes multiple different things with your team.
And I agree with that. Now, in my experience, I've had leaders, managers, whatever, take this a similar approach, but it was almost they micromanaged and that's how it was
So
taken.
explain
So
that.
I guess how would you
Explain the micromanaging that they were doing.
There was, as far as follow, like they'd ask, how long is this going to take? Probably 2-3 hours to get this done. Within an hour, how long is this going to take? Are you on track? Is this going to be done? You didn't even give me the time to get to where I could even make a substantial amount of progress before you're even asking. And then another half an hour later, you're not going to get that done, are you? Trust me to get the job done. Let me do my job, and it will be done in the time that you're putting forth. That time that I told you I'll be able to get the job done. But the more that you stop me and interrupt and stop me and interrupt, the more we're pushing this timeline out because you're taking my time. And maybe from what I've seen in the past, it's a lack of.
I guess to me, it all depends on where in line that job falls. If it's something that's hot, needs to get done, I guess I would micromanage that situation a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Regardless. And I'm going to, you tell me it's going to take 3 hours, I'm checking in every hour. But my check-ins are, I'm walking by, hey guys, how's it going? Everything good? All right, see you in a little bit. Keep me posted if anything changes. And just a quick check-in. I know you guys got shit to do. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm just making sure everything's good. Do you need me to get anything for you?
Well,
that's the other part that most people fail. Flat out fail at. You need to ask your team, what can I do for you?
Mm-hmm.
That will instantly take away that frustration that you have of them micromanaging you, because who the fuck says that?
Well, and who wants to ask for help? In reality,
right, but when it's
many
offered,
people are willing to ask for help?
Right, but when
Say,
it's offered,
I'm struggling with this. I mean, personally, I'm going to struggle with something. I'm going to exhaust all my resources that I can before I'm going to ask for help.
Right.
I'm going to do what I can on my end. But if somebody comes up and says, "Hey, how can I help you?" Well, shit. Now, here's how you can help.
Exactly.
And I can easily throw something off on somebody.
Yep.
So I understand where you're coming from, and I think that's what I wanted to get out of you, was how you approach that situation. Like
you got to have an understanding that, and again, it goes back to
you're
where
not drilling somebody with questions. Basically, you're not interrupting their work. You're just a quick, "Hey, how's it going? Do you need anything?"
But
All right, cool. Let me know
that's
if
having an
anything
understanding
changes.
of the situation and knowing, do you have the time to take those couple extra minutes to bullshit if you want to?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they under the gun and need to get their shit done?
Absolutely.
You have to assess that situation beforehand and know what you're getting into and how to approach that before you even get there.
Mm-hmm.
And that can change the whole tone too. But again, that goes back to checking in with your team and seeing how they're doing. And if I have the time to sit there and bullshit with you, I'm going to.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm not, because I got other stuff to do or whatever. But yeah, so that's one thing I do is ask, how long is this going to take, and then follow back up. I do, like you mentioned, the micromanaging, following up. If the situation is not under fire, that job doesn't need to get done right now, I won't check back in until
the time's up.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Or right before or right after even, and make sure. Sometimes I'll wait till after, make sure it's done, and they've moved on to something else. And when they haven't, I find out why. Okay, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first thing I'll say. What happened?
Yep.
How come you guys didn't hit your timeline? It's not attacking them. Just explain to me the situation so I know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there, another way for you to start understanding the process. Have them explain things to you.
Right.
It does help to get hands-on, but at the very least, you're getting some understanding of it.
Absolutely.
So just by asking how long and what issues did you have, you're already starting to learn that process.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I just said, another way to learn it is to just get in there. Get in and do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no better way to understand a process than to get in and do it. And then that provides you the ability to step back later and watch and just see if something's going wrong. See if somebody's doing something the wrong way, the wrong order, taking the wrong steps, depending on how
the process is.
how time sensitive the process is and how much into cycle time and all that your company is. But you can just step back and watch a process, watch it being performed, and know if they're doing it properly or not. And that's especially handy with newer team members, because they're still learning every single day for a while. So it's good to be able to help them. I don't know how many times I'd have, and team leads are very, very busy. Most team leads I've seen are very, very busy. Typically busier than the supervisors, for sure, because they're handling the brunt of the work. If they're an effective team leader, they are busy. So for me to be able to step in and jump on a machine and start training a new team member, it takes that burden off the team lead, gives me an opportunity to get to know that new team member right off the bat. Plus, they see, oh, this dude knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It helps all the way around. And then to be able to sit there and talk to them and show them, oh, you can do this way, and show them little tips and tricks. And it's amazing what that does for a relationship with a new team member.
Well, and how many people on the lower end, I don't want to say lower end, but like on the floor of manufacturing plants and everything, how many people see managers, supervisors, and are afraid to talk to them?
Yeah.
Want nothing to do with talking to any of them. You cannot even compare. You have no clue what I'm going through. You have no clue.
Yep.
I mean, I understand that feeling because I packed parts at a stamping plant for a year.
Well, and just in general, any managers can be intimidating, especially if they're not approachable. And when you break down that barrier and, hey, let me show you this.
Yeah, because
I got a way you can do this better.
In my experience, most people aren't going to break that barrier. So if you as the leader can do that hard work and break down that wall, I think that helps too.
And then think of what that does to the culture.
Right.
So you're just compounding all your efforts when you do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you are talking about is being expressed in your actions.
Right.
And your team takes notice. Don't think they don't. They are watching you. I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
And it's all in how you.
They're always watching, always listening. The more you show them you have their back, better off everybody's going to be.
And I kind of knew your answer was going to be along those lines, but I just was curious about what you'd say about that.
Yeah. When you use it, you have to be careful and make sure that there's something behind it. You need passion behind it. You need conviction behind it, or it's going to fall flat. It can't be an empty please or thank you. You actually have to mean, hey, I am grateful for what you're doing for me. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
If you don't have it, you can pick that up, and that turns you off.
Yep, I would agree. I'm trying to think of an example of saying please in a way that doesn't resonate as just saying please.
Well, it's just whatever emotion you say behind it, but even if you can disguise it, or if you think you're disguising it, people can feel if it's empty or not. But that kind of comes out in everything you do. If it, and this pertains to the work environment, but if you're excited about what you do, which is being a leader, then there will be some level of excitement or passion behind using the terminology, because you understand what you're doing by using it.
You're working towards a goal. And
Right.
That's, yeah.
So it can be an organic passion, but you got to make sure you're doing it for the right motives.
Yeah, I guess I can't think of a negative way to use please. I absolutely can see negative ways to use thank you or not
Please.
or not
You can say
not
please
use
with attitude.
Yeah, I guess.
Please go do this for me.
Yeah, especially after somebody says, "Oh, say please."
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yep.
But even without that emotion, if you don't have passion behind what you're doing, which it ultimately is trying to be a good person, because it's good energy to just be a good person. You know what I mean? So why wouldn't you just strive to be a good person? And by doing that, you're going to have manners and say please and thank you, because you want everybody to be. Why can't you thank everybody for everything they do for you all throughout the day?
Right.
Person that serves you breakfast in the morning or your cup
absolutely.
of coffee.
Just because they're
Hey, thank you.
doing their job,
Right.
so many people look at every single individual and say they're just doing a job. Yeah, they're doing a job, but thank them for it.
Right.
You know how few how little people in any service industry actually feel appreciated for the
And
work
why
that
should
they're doing.
they? Look at how they're treated.
Absolutely. but if you treat them nicely, just the different treatment you get from them is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They wait staff and everything like that. You genuinely treat them well, you'll get amazing service.
Right.
And you could probably walk away without tipping them as much as somebody else, but if they treat them like shit, I don't want to serve them.
Mm-hmm.
They leave me a $50 tip, but fuck that, I'm going to be treated like shit for hours.
Right.
No way.
Right.
I guess I don't ever use it with any bad intention behind it. Or not genuinely meaning it. If I don't genuinely mean it, I won't say it.
Right. Yeah. Because you don't think like that. You're not better than anybody.
No.
Well, how many people are? So they talk with that tone to them.
I guess I could say I match people's energy with it. If you enthusiastically do something for me, I will absolutely enthusiastically thank you for it. But if you do it with an attitude and out of spite, I have a hard time genuinely thanking you. Like, if you do a half-assed job of doing, like, if I bought something and some customer service representative threw it at me, there's your stuff. Gee, thanks. And I pissed off and walked away instead of just grabbing it and walking away.
Maybe so. At the same time, why are you allowing them to dictate the situation?
Oh, absolutely. And that's
you can still. I guess you can still be a nice person, a good person, and turn the other cheek.
And I guess I'm speaking more from my past experience because I've started to become more aware of that and stop myself from it, especially having kids and knowing that they're watching everything that I do.
What's the golden rule?
See, I don't completely trust that. Treat everybody like you want to be treated,
but if others as you want.
Yep, and if they start treating you like shit, you're just gonna continue treating them exactly how you want to be treated. There's a line you don't cross.
Why would you still interact with them? Doesn't say you have to be friends with every single person.
Oh, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely agree.
And if you don't want to be friends with them, well, that rule is telling you by definition, don't be friends with them, and you don't want they won't be friends with you if you're not friends with them.
100%. I don't interact with people that I don't.
So that's where that line is drawn. You're a nice person. You don't get in return. All right, see you later.
I absolutely agree. I mean, you're gonna treat people. You treat people the way you want to be treated. But yeah, if you get shitty service from somebody, I mean, I grab my shit now and like thanks and leave. But yeah, before fuck you, thanks, gee, appreciate you for nothing.
Right. Well, what's the point? Maybe
it's a waste of energy.
Maybe
really.
One of their parents just died this morning.
Oh, I know.
You don't know the struggle they're going through right now.
That's something that I've started to figure out the last couple of years too. Is like you have no clue.
That's a interesting one for me too.
It's hard to separate that, and everybody takes it for face value of the treatment that they get. But yeah,
but just like you, there's a story behind it.
Yeah, I know.
We all have baggage. So yeah, you have to make sure that you have that passion behind it. Because if you leave it flat, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And it's going to end up harming you more than it's helping you. So if that's going to be the case, just don't use it. And you'll be at least a little further ahead. Right. At least you're not losing respect every time you say it sarcastically to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, make sure when you do use it, you mean it. And that just goes back to just be a good person. Because it doesn't take much to be a good person.
No.
It really doesn't. That's only going to make you feel better and that other person feel better.
I agree.
You don't know what that thank you could do to them.
Right.
Thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed this little best of, if you will. We will have more highlights for you next week. Follow us everywhere on social. We are at J2B Podcast on Twitter, at Just Two Brothers Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Let us know if there are any clips you would like us to include from past episodes that you think might help someone. We would love to feature it on next week's episode and give you a shout out as well. Thanks again, everyone, and we will see you next week for part 2.